Welcome back, webheads, to the next episode of Spidey Swing-Bys, where we're going to be covering Amazing Spider-Man number 4 today. So, first things first, I am sick as a dog right now. Uh, I was originally going to do this last night. I was actually originally going to do it earlier in the week, but with family being over and the ick that I just have right now, it just didn't make sense. I'm feeling a bit better than I was yesterday, but this is either gonna get done now or never get done, so I needed to get it done right now, so I apologize for the sound of my voice, for the coughing I'm gonna have to do, for the clearing of the nose that I'm gonna have to do. Not the most attractive thing in the world, but I never claimed to be attractive in the first place, so there we go. Like I said, we're gonna be in Amazing Spider-Man number 4, and as we do, always, this was released, week 24 in 1963. The release date was June 11th, 1969. The story proper is Nothing Can Stop the Sandman. This is written by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, penciled by Steve Ditko, inked by Steve Ditko, lettered by Sam Rosen, and edited by Stan Lee. Sorry. So, what else was happening in Marvel this month? Well, plenty, my friends. Plenty was happening. Some of it even good. We'll start with Journey into Mystery 95, where Thor must fight an android duplicate of himself and the scientist who designed it. There's like a split kind of personality kind of thing going on there too. It's a weird and wacky journey into mystery, not the greatest in the world, but it is what it is. After that, we get to Tales to Astonish 47, where the Ant-Man and the Wasp face the musical hypnotist Trago in another forgettable story. Like, it astounds me reading through this Tales to Astonish just how long they were able to keep this going. It's not the best. Like, I'd argue, I'd maybe even argue it's worse than Strange Tales right now. There's some good ones every now and then, but the Ant-Man and the Wasp weren't the most engaging at this point in history. Now, next up, an actual good story. Fantastic Four 18, we see the Skrulls return for revenge and manage to duplicate the powers of the Fantastic Four by creating the Super Skrull, who is one of their most iconic villains. Anyone who is able to copy the power set of our main foursome here is tremendous. Like, he has done a good job. Like, Colert has grown as a character over time in Marvel immensely. I really do enjoy him. But on to lesser things. Let's talk about Strange Tales 112, where the Human Torch works to defeat the Eel when the villain steals the mysterious Project X. Ooh. And another okay story is Tales of Suspense 45, where Iron Man is beset by the menace of Jack Frost, who would later rename himself to be the first Blizzard in Marvel. But that's not all. There was one more title in Marvel that happened this month, but I won't be talking about it today, except to say next time you see me, we'll be covering Strange Tales Annual 2, which is the first official team up between Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, and Peter Parker, the Amazing Spider-Man. So let's see you there next time on Spidey Swing-Bys. But for today, let's go into good old Amazing Spider-Man number 4. I'll try and keep the coughing to a minimum. We start, as I'm becoming a man there, sorry. Voice is kind of messed up. We're going to get through this, guys. We start with Spider-Man seeing a billboard from J. Jonah Jameson talking about the Spider-Man menace, which I don't know about you, but I was reading through this, and it says, starting today in the Daily Bugle. Now, I know the 60s were a different time, but why would you ever put a billboard on there unless you were only intending to use it that one day, which sounds like a lot of money, and no wonder the newspaper industry is going out of business. Just say something today, starting today in the Daily Bugle. I guess good old Jolly Jonah just felt it just had to be done right now. So that's that. So we do see Spider-Man swinging by after this, sees some thugs about to break into a jewel store, but as he confronts them before they've done anything, they start calling him out. In his youthfulness and his recklessness, They haven't committed the crime yet, so they look like their innocence being beset by some costume menace that all of New York, for the most part, pretty much thinks is going out of his way to stage crimes and make himself look good. So they actually call out for the police, and as a result, Spider-Man is forced to flee for a little bit because I mean, technically speaking, they haven't done anything wrong. But as on the way, just minutes later, we're told he sees a guy in a green long sleeve shirt and brown tan pants that he is hiding away from the police and goes after him, puts a Spidey signal on him, the beacon, and finds the Sandman. And he has apparently heard of the Sandman, who I can't remember. I don't think he's been mentioned before now, unless I missed something earlier, which I wouldn't put past me in this drug induced state I'm in. But Spidey's like, "Oh, yeah, I just thought the reports of you were just a gag." So he goes up to Sandman, who just kind of tries to push him out of the way. And because we get our first showing of Sandman's power, Spider-Man is completely and utterly helpless. He has no idea how to counter this villain. Like, and even in a very iconic panel, punches through his body, which either implies that Peter was just uh, sending that punch forward and hoping he didn't hurt somebody, or just lost sense of himself and went forward, which meant that if Sandman were any other guy, he probably would have killed him. But given that he did just see Sandman's powers, like it makes a little sense that he did things this way. And also it proves what happens in the next panel is that Sandman can change his density to a bit to resist the punches a little more. And he uses a very it's called out here a very Mr. Fantastic move to get Spider-Man away. And in the process, Peter's mask gets ripped up, so he becomes afraid. And he realizing, oh no, if he finds out who I am, uh, my secret identity find out, and he goes through uh, the worst case scenario where the Sandman gives him up to the police, and J. Jonah Jameson wants him to be expelled from school and sent to prison for what he's done. And poor Aunt May is forced to be out there on the streets begging for money, which is it shows a part of Peter's that he is ultimately doing this thing not only to protect people, but he's also trying to protect his Aunt May. He's trying to make money on the side for the Bugle. With his pictures. But if he gets into prison, there's no breadwinner in the house. Um, Apparently, Uncle Ben and Aunt May just weren't really saving up as well as they should have in the midst of all this, and it's real sad. She's selling shoelaces for 10 cents just to make a living. I can only imagine what the inflation would be for right now. So, what does Peter do? Peter runs away, and that's just had happened last issue. This is not the first time this has happened. This is our hero who, in the midst of adversity, amidst adversity, runs away, which makes perfect sense. He's still a kid. And Sandman's like, oh, yeah, whatever. I'll just get back to business and goes away. So he ends up in a bank and steals from the vault because there's really nothing that can stop him. There's no security measure in Marvel Universe proper to stop a man made out of sand from engaging in this theft. So Peter goes back home and spends some time seaming his mask back together, sewing it up as he hears a news bulletin about the Sandman. We get the Sandman's origin. Now, this makes enough sense as a news broadcast, but it serves as very useful exposition, a little convenient exposition, but I'll take it. Uh, he used to be an inmate at an island prison. His name is Flint Marco, and he's known as the most incorrigible prisoner at that maximum security jail. But he escaped through a drainage tunnel, vowed never to be caught alive, and ended up at an atomic devices testing center. Which, in the midst of it, he could have become the Hulk if this was a gamma bomb, but instead, sorry about that. He ends up becoming one with the sand. But Aunt May interrupts this broadcast to try and give Peter something. And she, oh no, my poor little nephew, you must have a fever, dear. Puts him down, makes him rest, which Peter does need to rest a little bit here. And Aunt May gets to dote on him, like she needs to do that. Like she's still dealing with the grief of the loss of her husband, trying to figure things out for her. She can take care of her nephew. That's one thing she can control in this world. And she tells him to sleep, and he's been studying too hard. Like she's looking after him. This is a great Aunt May moment. And one of the reasons why Peter kind of sees her as like this fragile old thing he has to take care of. He can't let her know he's Spider-Man. Um, all that jazz there. So as we get through that, he does wake up feeling better in the morning. Aunt May takes his temperature. He finishes sewing up the costume, which, as we see in this panel here, he's going to wear it under his clothes today. Now, I think, if I recall correctly, this may be the first time that happens in Spider-Man history. Is the first time he ever brings out, excuse me, his costume, which is just light enough, thin enough for to fit underneath his regular clothing. So he then goes to work as well to see good old jolly Jonah, who is angry that not only is Spider-Man still out there, but the Sandman is too, and he's willing to pay money for someone to solve it. But Peter, having gained some of his resolve back, messes with Jonah by putting his webbing on the chair, sticking Jonah to it. Which I can't remember when it's established, but it'll be there for about an hour. Um, and Peter is talking to, I can't remember if this is the first appearance of Betty Brant or not, or if she's appeared before and we just really haven't got too much with her. Him kind of talking with her. Um, we get Jameson got himself out of his pants, and Peter brought them back, brought a new pair for him, uh, and asked Jonah for an advance. Which, good old jolly giving Jonah says, "An advance? Are you kidding? What do you do with your money? Eat it? Look, this is a business, not a charity. When you bring me exclusive pictures, I pay for them, but not before." Which makes enough business sense there. But Peter then goes, he realizes he has to get pictures of Spider-Man. So he's going to try and find a Sandman too, kill two birds with one stone. And on the way, as he's going to class, he does encounter Flash Thompson and Liz Allen. Now, I was confused about this panel when I started reading it. I was like, wait, what do you mean that Peter had asked Liz out on a date recently? But it's kind of, it's when you read it over again, he goes, oh, he did it so many times. He actually said yes to him, which is a bold move for her. And Peter just isn't ready for it because he unfortunately has too much on his mind. And I skipped ahead there too much. Sorry. So he has to say no to her, even though this is something that he's wanted. And of course, she's upset. Like, you've asked multiple times, and now when I'm willing to do it, you just give up on me. And Peter, classic Parker luck, is upset at this turn of events. And we do see that the Sandman continues his rampage, stealing from banks, finding things out. And we get good old Chekhov's vacuum cleaner in this panel. I forgot to put that image up there. Peter is talking to one of the janitors at the school, and is talking about this new king-size vacuum cleaner, which certainly won't come into play later on. But in the midst of this, the Sandman has come to the school to try and get away from the police, and Principal Davis confronts him and be like, "Hey, what are you doing here? Get out of here! You're not supposed to be here as a grown man amongst all these kids." And the Sandman makes a bold move and says, "Hey, I never graduated school. Maybe this is my chance to get a diploma." Which, I don't know how the schooling systems are handled where you're from, but I didn't just demand one. by walking into a school. I actually did this little thing called work to get my high school diploma and my college degree, and now I'm working on my master's of divinity for seminary. I didn't just show up one day to the seminary and say, "Hey, I'm Christian Ashley. Give me that degree." But the Sandman, he just doesn't think the same way you and I do. It's like, "Hey, that's enough. If they just give me a diploma, that's perfect." So he's about to fight the principal over this, but Peter has changed into being Spider-Man, fights him, and we get one of the classic moments of irony in a Spider-Man comic where everyone loves the kids at least love Spider-Man, but don't like Peter Parker when they're one and the same, and there's no way they could know the difference. And Spider-Man even wonders, like, "Hey, I wonder what these people would think if they were knew they were cheering on puny Peter Parker instead of just Spider-Man." Which is one of the greatest parts of his character is that not everyone likes Peter. So sometimes, most of the time, Peter kind of brings it on himself by not acting well, not loving other people as well as he should. But Spider-Man, people, even with the hate them that came across from the Daily Planet, Daily Bugle, uh, people still love Spider-Man more than Peter Parker would ever be respected in his life. And so Spider-Man confronts Sandman, having learned, uh, hey, I can still mess with him before he turns into sand if I'm quicker than him, and throws him out of the room. And Liz wondering, "Oh, where's Peter? Did he see this?" And Flash is like, "No, that coward. He's probably hiding his head is under a desk somewhere." So Peter tries to bring Sandman away as everyone is running out of the school to get to safety. The Sandman has changed his fists into kind of like a not an anvil, but something more solid to take Spider-Man down. But in the process, Spider-Man leads him away to where he can go into somewhere where he has more room. But Sandman is still stronger than him, still able to use his abilities, and Spider-Man really has no counter for this right now. Um, but in a brutal panel, by the way, which I had forgotten that this had happened, but it's one of those panels that you can get away. The art is really great here. Knowing who Sandman is, Peter can use this move that on anyone else would have made their head a bloody smear on the bottom of the stairs, but instead he slams the Sandman into that post, which is a great move because I mean we're not really sure how his consciousness works here, and Spider-Man's kind of figuring it out for himself here too. Um, as the Sandman kind of loses it for a bit, like maybe there's some one molecule of sand that actually holds his brain or something, and uh, Peter is working that he's trying to figure Sandman out in the midst of all this, uh, using his intelligence, using his wisecracks to get the Sandman messed up, pretending to use this electric drill to mess with the Sandman when his ultimate goal is Chekhov's vacuum cleaner just across the way. So when Sandman is confused and thinking, "Oh, I've got this," in one of the worst takedowns that a villain's ever faced, he gets sucked up by the vacuum cleaner and stored inside. How is he not able to get out? Don't worry about it. It's okay. That's one of the reasons why I rate this as low as I will be later on. But in with the Sandman caught in a bit of journalistic integrity, what does Peter do? He frames pictures uh, of him battling Sandman as Spider-Man so that he can get pictures for Jameson, who was demanding outside for people to go out and overpower the Sandman. Why Jameson thinks he's the one who can do this? I mean, it's because he's J. Jonah Jameson, of course. But police are like, "Hey, we can't be doing that. We got to make sure all the students are out there before the shooting starts." Very responsible cop work being done here. Can't go guns blazing in a scenario where we might accidentally hit a student. Um, but J. Jonah Jameson is demanding that they go out there, find Spider-Man, take him out. He's in league with the Sandman. He just knows it. And the spider beacon signal is down there, and Spider-Man has brought the captured Sandman there, and the police do ask him to give a full report. And Jameson, of course, wants to take his I questioning into matters of who Spider-Man is and whatnot. Peter imagines that he would take the mask off. He's like, nope, can't let that happen. So he swings away. And with that, Jameson does find him when he's back in the mode of Peter Parker. And ever the philanthropist, ever the best man in the room, Jameson says, hey, all right. Uh, here's Peter gives him the film. It hasn't ever developed yet, and Jameson is going to dock that from Peter's pay. I love Joe. How could you not love J. Jonah Jameson? He's such a cad. Oh man. And with that, Sandman has been defeated. Peter is trying to move on. He's trying to see if he can find Liz Allen and ask her out on another date. Um, but she's been spurned. Spurned once, even though he's been spurned many times. She's not that kind of girl. Give it up. And Peter is about to have a moment where he almost punches Flash. Having had enough of his abuse, having had enough of his, you know, smart aleck nature, but stops himself because he knows he would hurt Flash in any kind of fight, even if he pulled his punches. So he gives up, and he get called out as a coward for not having courage. And that's one of the worst things you could ever be in early Marvel is kind of like a coward. If you ever ran away as a superhero, your story was up, people gave up on you. It's like, oh, well, you know, Thor did this and Thor ran away. Thor's a coward. Or Spider-Man ran away from the Sandman because he had to get back to Aunt May and protect her. He's a coward. And it's one of those things that it kind of makes enough sense where public opinion changes the moment a hero does something different or something like that. I get it, but it gets a little over the top as time goes on. And but we also see here that Liz hasn't like turned to hating Peter. Like when Flash does make fun of him, she sticks up for him and says, "Hey, don't be that cruel to Peter." So there's this mixed emotion kind of feeling that they're both dealing with. Is a little bit of tension between the two of them that is developed later on, especially in these earlier comics. You know, kind of a will they, won't they, as it'll happen of Betty Brant too, and of course with the introduction of the best character in Spider-Man, Mary Jane Watson later on, and how they both feel like it completely inadequate next to her. Um, we'll move on to see here that it is said the papers do report that Spider-Man caught the Sandman, but Jonah Jameson, being Jameson, says that he's just as bad. He's just turning him in for his own glory. And the kids are like, I could be Spider-Man, or I could be the Human Torch. Who's so much better than good old, Spider-Man. And Peter has that another great moment of not feeling worthy, not feeling like he's doing anything at all. And that self-doubt kind of creeps in his mind, but ultimately, that's one of the best parts of him is even when that happens, he's not going to give up permanently because he knows he has that responsibility. But for right now, we are told that thanks to ever increasing demand, the next issue will be Spider-Man's next great thriller, which will be 2 episodes from now, and will be covering Spider-Man's first fight with Doctor Doom. But for you guys, we actually will be covering, like I said earlier, Strange Tales Annual 2. So that's that. Thank you for bearing with me as my voice was just kind of all over the place here as I'm dealing with sickness and runny noses and all these terrible things. I hate allergies. I hate colds. I hate everything involved with them. But here we are. We got through it. We're going to get this done. Thank you all for your support in this. Oh, my final score. This one was okay. I will put it that way. It's not the greatest. The Sandman is just kind of defeated in like a very sloppy fashion. Like if this were any other point in Spider-Man's history, he would have like come up with some gadget that would have like frozen the sand molecules together or had an adhesive that was even stronger than his regular spider webs or something like that that kept the Sandman in place or what have you. But It's okay. It builds the world a little more. We start getting more hints of Peter being interested in Liz. She might be interested in him too. We see him holding back against Flash when he knows he could deck him out, and everyone think he was cool for doing that. Or or just Peter dealing with the fallout of Jameson's crusade against him as a masked menace. It's a lot of good stuff, but it's not the best. So I'm giving this one a 7 out of 10. So what do you guys think? Uh, how about the first appearance of the Sandman? Would he engage you? Do you think he had lasting power as a villain? Well, obviously he did, but how do you think that he deserved that? Should it have been focused on another villain instead? How do you think about all the dealings with Peter's supporting cast and everything? Let me know in the comments below. I'm more than happy to look at them and answer them as best as possible. I love the engagement you guys have been doing. Thanks for continuing to share these videos and showing them to other people. Liking and subscribing would really help our channel as well for systematic geekology. I appreciate all you guys are doing. So until next time, see ya.